my fellow readers. Today I'm going to be talking about the most heretical last boss queen from villainous to savior, and I will kind of discuss both the light novel but also the manga version. And these essentially cover the same thing. I think volume 3 of the manga goes a little bit farther, if I'm remembering correctly, than the end of the first volume. I think the first volume maybe goes to, or goes through volume 2, and maybe a bit into 3. But anyway, that's beside the point. I will quickly read the back of the light novel, volume 4, volume 1. We'll talk. So Pride Royal Ivy is only 8 years old when she realizes that she's been reincarnated, destined to become the future Wicked Queen and final boss of an otome game. She's got it all in this new life: razor-sharp wit, boss-tier powers, and influence over the kingdom as crown princess. Determined to sow despair and destruction across the land, Wait, what kind of rotten future is that? Princess Pride decides to drop the maniacal villainous act and protect the male love interests instead, cheating her way to saving everyone she can. Will this final boss end up earning the adoration of her kingdom? So, as described from the back, this is one of those isekai reincarnation stories where she wakes up in the otome game that she played in the real world and realizes that she has been born as the villainess. And in this otome game, the villainess is the queen of the country. She was the daughter of the king and queen, and there's so many things about this. I'm trying to remember, like, the otome game line. For whatever reason, she's just a villain. Like, she's just bad. There's no real explanation for it. There could be potential reasons for it, like in the storyline. We know that her mother leaves her to care for her younger sister. So she's kind of just raised by her father, who's often busy. So could it be that she becomes the villainess because she felt ignored? I don't know. But either way, her old self is just evil. Like, she does such horrible things. Once she gets her future sight power, or some kind of power, I still wasn't clear either on whether she would have the sight or not, because what happens in this, of course, is that when she wakes up and gets the realization that she's in this game, she knows the in-universe stuff that happens, and so she claims she's had a dream that would be a vision of the future. It's like she's gotten her power to see visions of the future, which is in-universe, like, part of what the royal family has through her mother, where she gets the ability to see the future. So she claims that she's done that, and then because she's awoken to her power, she becomes officially the next in line for the throne. And there's other things that she does as kind of a positive in this new lifetime, to where she knows that there's going to be an accident if her father leaves to go and retrieve her mother and sister. So she calls out to him to stop and is like going to jump out the window. And there's just a whole thing. And apparently people begin to realize that she's a little bit different than the way that she was before this date in time. That she's no longer the spoiled and bratty princess that she once was. It starts to come under that she's different. There's something different about her. They don't know if it's because she's awoken to her power or if there was just some maturity that randomly happened. But she ends up, like, saving some of the jobs that they thought they were going to get fired, and then they're not. There's just all these interactions within the castle staff. And then we're introduced to a new character who becomes her adopted brother, Stal. And we get to see his backstory as well. And apparently, I should say, like, backstory, like the old universe storyline was that she, Princess Pride, when she found out, like, that this was going to happen, instead of signing the regular contract that he will sign in order to become the adoptive brother in the family, she makes him sign a slave contract, which grants her like full control over him completely. And she actually makes him go and murder his mother in just this horrible scene, because like he loves his mother and didn't want to leave her at all. He was chosen because he has special abilities, and Pride took advantage of that, and I don't know, wanted to torture him by making him do this stuff. So of course in the current timeline she doesn't do that, and in fact she becomes more of a protector to Stale, and they become very, very close. And it's the same with their sister as well when she comes back to the castle, and she's been raised separately because she was more ill, and also because her mother sees visions and saw glimpses of Pride becoming the evil queen that she became in the game world. And so she's sort of kept the sister away. But when it seems that she has changed and that she has this power, and also that she's developing more empathy and emotional skill, the mother comes back with the sister, and she has a lot of guilt because she hasn't been there for her daughter, mostly because she was afraid of what she would become. Again, I don't know if that's a whole thing, that maybe she was becoming that way because she was ignored by the mother. I don't know, because none of that matters, because it's not the current story that's being told. Like, it matters, but only in the fact that she uses that knowledge of the game in order to change everything. And so first there's the story with Stale, then there is the story with the knight, and now I'm like spacing on his name, where originally she allowed his father to die, and it caused a lot of harm to him, and he always wanted vengeance on her. But in this life, she is able to save the situation. And I liked this one, I think, a lot. And it also had a really great manga adaptation. I enjoyed this quite a bit. It's got great artwork. I like in this one that although she starts as a very young child, so we see her at 8, it time skips. So we'll get vignettes of her at 8, and then we get vignettes of her at, I don't know if it stopped when she was 10. So it has stopping points at main parts of the plot. And I think where we leave off at this one, she's around 13. And I wouldn't doubt it if it jumps with the next volume, which I think I have, but haven't read yet. I think I might have the other 2 volumes that are currently released in print. The art pictures are nice. I actually really loved the manga art, but, you know, I don't know. This is a great one for both releases. I don't think... Is this the one that just stopped? I think this one had to terminate the manga edition, but I'm not 100%. I can't remember what I read. Light novel's still going for 100%. Yeah, and I would recommend it. I had a lot of fun with this. Definitely is just another one of the isekai stories where you're in an otome world. But as much as I like otome games, I like the light novels that tell of ending up in an otome game universe. Because you're going to get those characters. There's a bit of comfort in reading these, to be honest. But I also do like Pride. I like what she's able to do in order to change the future of these people. And at every step when she meets one of the people, she will literally tell them that if they ever perceive her as turning evil, that they should kill her. Like, she just flat out announces it to like everyone. Once she gains their acceptance and their trust, she will immediately say, I'm glad that you're devoted and whatever, but please, if I ever look like I'm turning evil, I want you to take me out for the good of the country. And I think it's fascinating to me. It does make me like her, but I also think it's funny that she believes that she will fulfill her role as the villain, even though every step that she's taking changes the whole course of the future, because her sister's not going to turn out to be exactly the same way as she was when they didn't have a relationship. Like, now they're growing up together, and she hasn't done all this villainous stuff at this point. So now she's gotten through at least 5 years where she has not been a villain. Like, she's made positive choices. And so it's fascinating to me that she's still worried she'll become the villain. And I think she was only around 18 or 20, maybe. I think she was closer to 18 when she was murdered in the original game storyline. Well, not murdered, but she has to be slain, I guess you would say, because of her villainy. So, I always think that's interesting in the reincarnation and isekai stories, where they're the villainous character, and they're so worried about, like, dying because of that, but at the same time, they're changing who they are and are no longer who they were. Like, you're not just playing the game at that point, you are the character, and so you're actually just making a new story. But anyway, I think it's fascinating, and I think that this was a great one. I would highly recommend The Most Heretical Last Boss Queen from Villainess to Savior if you are a fan of light novels and otome games and shoujo in general. If you like your villain characters that are finding redemption, like, she didn't really have to redeem her own self, but she's redeeming the villain character in the original otome game. If you like those kind of stories, which I do, I don't even know why I love them so much, but I do, I would pick up this series. It's very fun. I will, of course, fill you in on what happens further in the series as I read to see if I'm still liking it, if the story is still as strong as these first volumes, but so far it's really good. I love seeing her build the relationships with the characters. I love Stale. I think he's a very fun character. The sister Not Too Much is really known yet, and again, I don't know how much Pride is changing her story by not being a villainess, so can't say much on that, but I love Stale, and I love the knight, which I feel so bad I don't remember his name. Arthur. I know it's a normal name. So I love the knight Arthur. I don't know how I could forget that name because I just kept thinking of King Arthur. I think his whole story with almost losing his father, and originally he didn't think he could become a knight. Arthur has a power too, a special ability. I should say that Stale has the ability to transport. So I think he's able to transport himself and anything up to, like, his body weight, I think, or like another human. I don't remember what the limitations were, but he can do transportation. And Arthur has a power too, which I think at this point in volume 1, he believes is just to, like, nurture and grow things, but comes into huge play later in the story, which does get touched upon in volume 3 of the manga. So I can't wait to read that in the light novel. So I will be heading towards that with volume 2. And anyway, I love the characters. I think they're great. So far, I think they're well written. I will check in again after I read volume 2 to see how the story's going. Is the character development well? Which characters do we meet for those volumes, and how do I feel about them? So far, I am a fan, would recommend. And that is it for this video. Until next time, bye.